All right, and to further the discussion now, we're joined in studio by Elton Hart. He is attorney at the University of Johannesburg's Law Clinic. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Palisa.
Before we,
viewers.
Thank you so much indeed, Elton. Before we take a look at the contents of the report, really, just make us understand the significance of launching such a report.
Obviously, if one looks at it, then the Chief Justice is trying to actually instill confidence in the greater population of South Africa that the courts are working and people are getting access to justice. So that's more or less what the basis is, and obviously to also encourage the stakeholders that's involved in the judicial process to actually work harder and actually work better and do things in a more efficient way. Hence, he's trying to bring this report to the attention of the nation to see where's the shortcomings.
And what do you make of the report, the contents thereof? Are you convinced that the justice system is, of course, in the right path?
Obviously, with Justice Mogoeng now being there, I can see in the media in the past couple of years that he's now actually trying to do something different for the people. And I would say that well up to him, but also we need to know that the bulk of our population is normally people that litigates in the lower courts in the country, which is your regional courts, which is your district courts. And me working on a daily basis with people operating in those courts, it is very, very difficult for people if they don't have access to resources and stuff like that. And even our court systems, I mean, recently they opened a court here in Boysens. Johannesburg court has been operating in this. So they have two courts in the same jurisdiction, while in Soweto, the court is very old. The regional court that we're operating in for civil matters is like a mobile unit. So there's work that needs to be done. But people are turning blind eyes to these type of things. So one needs to look at it and say, is this access to justice? Yes. Access to justice is a nice word, but they put it up there as if things are happening for people. But you really need to see, is this person really able to prosecute his claim? Is he in a position to do so and effectively? I normally refer to the high courts as the money courts, because if people don't have money, they can approach the high court easily. You get the pro bonos, you get the law clinics, but they have limited resources. So these people's chances of actually prosecuting their claims is also limited. So you have these types of problems. And our population is of such a nature that we have to look and find other mechanisms to make sure that the relief that people can get easily in high courts should also be available to the man on the streets.
Indeed. And just on that point, I mean, we know a lot of people are very dissatisfied with access to justice, access to the justice system. With the scourge of gender-based violence, a whole lot of people came out to say that, but the justice system is failing us as South Africans. It is failing the victims of gender-based violence, for example. Your take on that, really?
Yes, I believe that some of the courts do fail our people. And the thing is, like, people say, oh, you've got access to a court. But I mean, access to justice go further than that. I'm not legally trained, so I need somebody that can actually guide me to those processes. Although I might prosecute my claim in my person, but I need somebody to advise me. And there's not a lot of advisors that can actually assist people. And as much as we have two high courts in the Gauteng province, people can go there, but if you don't know the practice directives, you don't know the court guidelines, you don't know the court rules, you don't know the Superior Courts Act, you are dead in the water from the start. You're going to try and institute something, you're going to do wishy-washy. So many people in Soweto that I see on a daily basis has lost their houses in the High Court because they don't have the funds to litigate against these big corporations and people with money. And that's just how it is. It's sometimes a money game for people.
Yeah, so if you don't have the necessary financial means, then you are as good as doomed.
Yeah, that's the thing. And people might say, yeah, but it's not the case. Yeah, you get that odd occasion where you get an attorney that would stick up his hand and say, I'm going to represent this guy for free. But it's not everybody that's doing that. And it's these isolated cases that they can refer to. But if you go look at the general population, then you can see that there's a lot of people out there that's still struggling. I mean, in Soweto, we have a lot of cases where people in the past couldn't get title deeds. Now their houses got sold, all those type of things. Where do you have to go? You have to go to the High Court to get the reversal of the title deed. Most of these old people are pensioners. Where are they going to get the money? The law clinics legally don't have the resources to get advocates, to get those type of people, to get the experts, to get some of the reports. Yeah, there is some minimal funds and resources available, but still our biggest population, access to justice to them is something like a myth.
Yeah. So we also had the Chief Justice saying that he believes that the judiciary has been targeted by what he calls a campaign driven by political motives. Your take on that, because in some cases we see politicians really calling the state of the judiciary into questions, more so when they lose cases against the state?
Yeah, no, obviously politicians should just stay in the political lane and stay away from the courts. Well, once a decision goes for a political party, whichever one it is, then the judiciary is good. If a decision goes against them, they're not good. But you get instances, and I'm not saying that the judiciary is now, they are human beings. They sit there on the bench, they can make a mistake. But there is mechanisms in place that you take it on appeal. Obviously, if you get to the Constitutional Court, that's your last option. So if you're unhappy, if you feel like a judicial officer or presiding officer did not apply his mind to the matter, because you must understand we are people, we are human beings sitting on the bench. And what you interpret the law to be and what I interpret is two different things. And we might give two different interpretations of the law. And the law is always about interpretation. And there's routes that you can follow. But with the political parties, I don't even see it, because one day you get a political party saying, oh, good judgment. Tomorrow they fight and say, I'm not happy with the judgment. Altogether. And I mean, without now pointing finger at the DA, at some stage the DA said, no, the courts were good. Then they got a judgment against them. No, the courts were not good. The EFF did the same thing. Judgment against them, courts crying.
We've run out of time. We've run out of time, but I quickly want to go back to the point you made on the efficiency of the courts. We heard the Chief Justice really conceding that efficiency still lacks here and there within the justice system, and pointing to the issue of the lack of funding to modernization of courts, for example. And he says that funding is a challenge, but there have been attempts before to capture the judiciary. So what do you make of that statement?
No, obviously funding is a big problem. And the thing is, like, the problem starts, it's not just the judges and presiding officer, magistrate that's sitting on the bench that can actually dictate how a court road runs. It's also the prosecutors, the attorneys involved, and our other stakeholders, like the clerks in the courts, the stenographers. All these people play a role. Even your investigating officers, because if my case needs to run and my investigating officer did not bring a witness to court, subpoenaed him, then that trial is going to fall flat. Then it must be postponed when all the attorneys, the judge is available. So there's a lot of things that plays in, and people don't necessarily know it. But you get instances where you get lawyers, you get prosecutors, you get judges that are lazy to work. Then they would also make sure that certain trials are not running. They make sure that it's not running, and because I'm afraid I might get a judgment against me, the prosecutor is just lazy, or the judge thinks, I don't want to deal with that one now. I'm going to deal with it on another day because I'm not in the mood for that. These things happen on ground level. If you go to the district courts, you go to the regional courts, it happens on a daily basis, and we shouldn't shy away from it.
So there's still a long way to transformation in our courts.
Very, very long.
We have to leave it at this, but I would love to continue the discussion some other day. Thank you so much for coming through, Elton.
It's a pleasure.
All right, well, there you have it. Elton Hart, attorney at the University of Johannesburg's Law Clinic, talking to us about the report presented earlier by the Chief Justice Mogoeng Mogoeng on the state of our courts in the country.